Hey folks, so today I'm going to create this app which is called Roll a Dice app, and what this app is going to do is it's going to create a random number every time you click on the button here. So this is a very interesting app, and the good part about this app is that it starts using your programming skills in Xcode, and it is a good app to start off with. It's a simple app, but it uses some amount of logic. So without further ado, let's just get into creating this particular app. So you have to have your Xcode ready for that. So I would use the Xcode new file. So let me just use a new file in Xcode here. Okay, so here is my Xcode, and I'm gonna open a new project here and a new single view app here, and I'm gonna call it Roll Dice, or just call it myDiceyApp. So I'm gonna call it myDiceyApp, why not, yeah? And say next, and it will give you an option, so you can put it in a new folder and just click create, and it will create this app into a new folder, and Xcode has done that for you. Okay, so let me just expand this and show you. So this is the single view application which Xcode has created for you. Now this has got three main elements of it. So if you look at the left panel, you have the assets folder, you have the main storyboard, and you have the view controller folder. So these are three connecting folders which we'll continuously use to connect our app. And this is the launch storyboard, and main storyboard and launch storyboard are similar things, but the difference is launch storyboard launches the app. So what you see when you launch the app, when you click it for the first time, if you want it to be different from the main storyboard, then you can do that. But for this particular presentation, I'm not going to get into that. So look at the main storyboard, and this is where all our UI elements are going to play out, right? And this is where our code is going to play out, and this is where all our assets going to play out. So let's begin by putting in all the assets. So first thing first, I'm going to take in all the assets. So I've put a link below, and you can use that link to draw out all the assets from the folder. And what you have to do first thing is move these asset folders. So the first pictures, the first 10 pictures, I believe, until Dice logo app. Okay, those are the ones which are our images. So I'm going to keep those here, and the new background and new background 2x is also an image, so I'm going to keep it here. And these ones are our icons. So this is how our app is going to look like as from an icon point of view. So here, to copy the icon, you have to drag it, and I suggest you drag it one at a time. So this is how our icons are going to look like in the phone. And the reason I'm giving it different resolutions is because each phone corresponds to different resolutions, and you have to give different resolution based on different phones that you have. So now once you've copied all your assets, you can close this folder. So here we got all our dice images 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we've also got the dice logo here, and we have got the new background. Now this 1, 2x and 3x are basically resolution sizes. So depending on higher resolution, ideally you should also have a 3x resolution, and you can create these in your Photoshop. So these are resolutions of images, and these are images which you can use. So you can add other images also in this particular folder. Now let's get into the main storyboard and see what's there. And this is our main storyboard, and on the right hand side what you see is a collection of objects, and it's called the collection object library. and here you can get the object that you want to draw here. So you don't have to physically create an object, you can simply draw it. So I want to draw an object called the image view, and I'm gonna put it here and like so, and I'm gonna drag it so that it gets resized into my app, and this is going to be my UI image background. And what I want to do is I want to change the color of this. So I will go down on the right hand side, and in the attributes inspector I will go down and click on the new background. So I get the new background here, a beautiful nice background. Now I want to put in the logo, so I'm going to put that on top of it, and my logo is again here, so I don't have to look for it. So Dice logo is there. Now I can play around with aspect fit and sort of get the image properly tagged there. And I want 2 more images for each of my dices. So 1 image here and then 1 image on the left side. So these are my dices, and then 1 button. I need a button because I want to click that button and something should happen. And the button, again there is a button option, so I'm going to use that button option. I just want to reduce the size of this a little. Now you can do that here also in attributes inspector, but I'm just doing this as a quick and dirty option. And here I will go and change the size. So look at the right side, and I'm going to probably change it to 50, and you can change the font as well. So and you can change the name of the button also. So roll a dice, and that should come here. Now you can't see that here because what I've done is you can't see it here, so I'm going to click command and equal to, and I can see the roller dice here. Now the image has got shortened, so I've got to resize it to 50 again, and when I say done, so I see the roller dice here. Now I can also change the color of it, so let's just make it white so that it's clearly visible. And here is our roller dice button. So we're done with our UI, simple layout here. And now I want to connect this to my code. So for that I will go here, and as you can see these 2 circles here. So this is the assistant editor. The moment I click it, I'll see my code side by side. So this is my code and this is my image or the UI element. So I want to connect this to my code. So all these need to change. This doesn't have to change, so I don't have to connect this. This 2 have to change, and this has to change. So these 3 things I'll have to connect, and these 2 have different properties and this have a different property. This is basically going to receive an image and it's going to show that, and this is going to trigger that action, so this will be an action button and this will be a image accepting button. So what I'm going to do is right click here and just drag it here and drop it here and give it a name. So you can give it a name of dice image 1, okay, and it's automatically created an outlet, see, and you use this particular image and create one more here, dice image 2, and you create this, click it here, you got it. So we got both of these connected to the file, and now let's connect this, and again the same process, right click, drag it, and I can drag it anywhere here. It doesn't allow me to drag it outside of this curly braces of the class, so I'm going to drag it here just from a code separation point of view, so I know where my actions are happening, and I'll drop it here, and I'll call this, I'll call it the roller dice. Why not, right? And I'm going to change the property of that to action, and I don't have to change anything else. Just say connect, and it's created a function here. Now in this case it's just created a variable, and here it's created a function because it is expecting me to write some code here which it will execute every time I press it. So let's say if I press print hey and I leave it and I run this app, and I'm gonna run this app from here, go to my simulator button, click one of the phones, iPhone 7, and load it up, and when I click this it would do some action here. So now it has to print a hey, not on here, just in your console. So I will show that to you now, and I'm going to keep it here, my phone app, and okay, so we have done this. Now what has not got connected is these two images which is going to come here are not connected to this. So all these are connected to the coding file, but these are not connected to that. So we'll have to wait for that to happen. But let's just see if all our images are there and set and right. So when you load it up for the first time, it takes a bit of time, but second time it's going to be much quicker. So if I click roll a dice, you can see that in my console I can see hey, hey. So it's showing me hey here. Okay, and you don't see an image here because I haven't put any image here. So I'm going to put an image just for your reference, and I can change it later as well. So what I will do is to put an image, I'll go click it, go to the attributes inspector, choose an image, and I go here, click it, go to the attributes inspector and click an image. Now this is just a static image and nothing's going to happen really, but I just wanted to show you that the image can be created there. So I am going to put an image there now. So the next time the file loads, you will see that the image has been put there. Alright, so and your console should show hey. So now the images come. Now when I go and click on roll a die, automatically the image, you will see a hey here, and the image will not change. So you say hey, so far our file is working. Alright, so now let's do some bit of coding so that our file is dynamically updated. I don't want to have this hey here. So what we want to do next is that we want to connect this to this, and that's very simple. I simply have to take this image, this particular variable, and I have to add it here. So I'm going to add that variable here as dice image 1. Okay, and I have to change some property of that. Let's say I want to change the image property of that, and I will change that image property to, let's say, dice 2. Okay, and I can also add the second image there, dice image 2, and I want to change the image property of that to, let's say, dice 4 or dice 6. So now when I run my app and I click the button, it will change the first image to 2 and the second image to 6. So that's the expected outcome of the pressing button. So when I click here, they should become 2 and they should become 6. Let's see if it's going to happen or not. Yes, it's happened. So the code is working, and this is a good way of creating your app, because you should test your code at every stage, and if you find an error, you should stop it there and fix it. Now what I don't want to do here is I don't want these static images to come. I want to create a random image from my image repository. So I can't every time go and type dice image 3 and dice image 4 and 5. I can't do that in my code. So when the user is clicking that button, it should randomly create some image. So let's play that. So what I will do for that is I'll create a variable, and I will assign that variable into this particular place, and this particular place I will allow that to pick some image from my repository directly, instead of typing it here. So for that, you need to first thing what you need to do is create an array. So I want to create an array, and this is going to be a let statement because arrays don't change. I don't want to change my array, so this is going to be, let's say, dice array, and the array is going to contain the files, that the image files that I've created. So dice1, comma, dice2, dice3, dice4, dice5, and dice6. So let's just copy this because I'm a lazy programmer. So we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I will simply change these things here. So this is going to be my 6 dice image, 5, so 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So what have I done here? I have created an array and I've put the images there. So what are my images? So I'll go back here and I'll show you what my images are. So my images are here, right? Dice 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. Now I've put these things into an array, and because Xcode knows that my image file names are these, when I'm going to type that image, it's going to look for those images here. So my array is going to do that for me. So let's go back to the main storyboard. So this is it. Now if I directly put that array here, it would not know what random image to pick. So what I have to do is I have to create a function called random number generator, which will create a random number, put it into a variable, and then that variable will automatically pick the number from one of these. So let's just sort of understand that in a small file here. So what I'm going to do here is I will so I'm going to create a variable here. Alrighty. So I will put a function which will create a random number here, from 1 through 6, okay, randomly, and that will be put every time I run this button. And from there I will pick another, I'll choose that number, and I will put that into the array that I've created. So let's say the dice one which I've chosen. So what I will do is, instead of putting 1 here, I will use this. So this number goes into the variable, and that variable comes in and stays into this box. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. So let's and because I've got 2 buttons, so for each of those buttons I'm going to create a different random number. So the random number function will create one for this and one for that, and both of these will then pick one dice from the array. So consider array as a huge box with a lot of dices, okay, with different numbers, and basically the number which this random number generates will allow us to pick this and put it here. Alright, so let's just go back here and try to do that. Alrighty, so for that, first thing I need to create is a variable. So I need to create a variable called, let's say, random. So always create variables which sort of tell you what it's doing. So even if somebody else uses your code, he will know what this variable is all about. So random dice image 1, okay, and this is going to be of type integer, and I'm going to assign it a value of 0, and then I'm going to create another variable called random dice image 2, and this is going to be of value 0 again. So I've created 2 variables, and I've created 2 variables, one for this and one for that. So because I want different numbers. If I wanted the same number, I would have created just one variable. Now I will get those variable here first, and I'm gonna put those variables random dice image into a method or a function which is created by Xcode, and this UI kit comes with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that function. So that function is called arc random. So it's called arc for random uniform, and it gives me a upper bound here. So I'm going to give a upper bound of 6 here because my numbers are from this to 6. Okay, and so what this basically means is that it's going to create a random number from 0 to 5. So that exactly fits in with my logic, because my logic starts with index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this will create 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you create it with 6, it will automatically create one less than that. Now this is of a different type, so this cannot assign an image to the random dice image variable, because this is of integer type and this is of different type. So Xcode is going to tell me, can I fix it? So I'm going to say to it, yes, go ahead and fix it. So what it's done is it's converted that into an integer. So second time when I'm creating this particular method, I will because I know that it's going to say the same thing, I'll just show it to you. So I do this, put it here, and this time when it shows me that it is going to give an error, I'm going to insert int in front of it. Okay, so automatically this error should go now. So this error is gone. Now so far so good. So we have created, what we've done is we created a variable and we assigned it a number of 0 to begin with. So initially the number was 0, then we took that variable and then assigned it a random digit. Now that random digit will go into my dice array, and if I say that my dice array is going to be, let's say, dice array is going to be randomly generating a number of 2, then it will go and pick 1, 2 and 3 and assign that to this UI image here. So that's how it's going to work. Okay, so this is where we want to play around with this. So I'm going to take this particular function, and there is a function called UI image with a parameter of named. So I'm gonna add the array into that. So this basically takes a string value, and the array will have all the images. And what I've already done is that I've taken the random dice image and I have assigned that a random value through the arc for random function. So you see that that's the images that we're going to insert there, and you see that array only takes a string value there clearly, so we have to assign that a string value. So I can't give it like an int like 3 because it gives me a typo error. Now I could have added a couple of colons, apostrophes, and then automatically it will sort of, if I contain that in apostrophes, it will give me a string, but that's just for your value, so I can't add a integer there. So what I'm going to do is I have to convert whatever value I add there into a string, but luckily for me arrays are strings, so that takes care of most of my issues. Now within the array I'm going to add my function, which is the random dice within the array I'm going to add my variable, which is the random dice image variable, which I have created, which of course gets its value from the integer arc for random uniform function. So I could have in fact added that directly into it, but that would have complicated. Probably that a first time user might get confused because there will be too many things that I'll be adding. So what it will take one of those values from there, 1 2 3 4 5, the dice image which we have saved in our assets, and it will use that value and it will assign it here into the image, into my dice array, and it will do it in a very random process. So let's add it to the next one as well. So the UI image here, I'm adding UI image named and the dice array, the same function, but just typing it out. I could have copied it as well, but typing helps me because I might type random dice image 1 again, but I want to type image 2. So once I do that, then I'm able to sort of have a random value generated, assign it to a variable, and then that variable assigns that into the array. This is my app. So we are pretty much in this format we are pretty much done now. Let's just try to run this app and see how it sort of operates. So let's run. This is it. We are pretty much done with our creation of the random dice. So when I click this, it should run, and now every time I click the roll a dice button, what should happen is these two things should change. All right. So this is 4 and this is 2, and when I click this, it will change. Now I also want to change the loading images, so I can do that simply by adding this particular code into view load. So whatever you type here, view load, in this particular place, it will run first when the app runs. So I can copy this entire code and put it here. Now I don't want to do that because that's going to be like, copying again and again the same thing, and the principle of coding is that you should not repeat your code. So what I'll do is I'll create a separate function here using the func keyboard, and I'll call that function, let's say, random number random dice. Okay, and this is going to be an empty parameter, and I'm going to close it, close the parenthesis, and I'm going to take this entire code of mine and paste it inside here. Okay, now I can simply use this particular function wherever I want to. So I can just put it here, and I can just say random dice. So this function will run here, and I can run it here as well, random dice. So now this function will run wherever I want to. If I want to run it here, I can run it here again, so I don't have to write the code over and over and over. And this is a very good practice. You do not have to repeat the code every time this happens. So this is a good practice to follow when you create a code. So let's just run it one more time, and this time when the app is loading, it should give you a random number to begin with, because we added this particular function here, and it should not show me 4 and 2. You see, now it's showing 2 and 6, and when I click this, it changes. So we are now done with our app creation. So let's just go back and quickly do a recap of what we did. We created all the assets here, put all the images here, then we connected those images here. Image 1 was referenced with this through this outlet, and image 2 was referenced to this outlet, and we linked this particular, though it looks like an image, this was a button, and because we wanted it to do something, and we linked that to this particular outlet, and in that outlet we created a code snippet which we put inside that. And what the code snippet was essentially doing is that it was creating a random file here, it created this particular it created this particular variable, and then we created an array. So what it did is that we moved that random variable into a function which basically created random numbers from 0 to 5, and we assigned it to this image, and then that image went into this particular array which had all the data of the files that we wanted to display. So if we had another file here, we could have displayed it here, and we could have changed this from 6 to, let's say, 7, just to say randomly what would have done. Alright, so this is how you create a file, and this is how you create an app, and this is a very useful way of doing it. I hope you like this particular session, and in the next session what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this app a little, and I'm going to add another function there called this shake function, which will allow me to use this particular device, and if I shake it, then automatically this should move because of that. Or why don't we do that right away? Okay, it's going to be fun. So give me 1 second now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how I'm playing with this. I will go to the net and say add shake function in, not share function, shake function in Xcode Swift. So somebody would have created this function, and I simply have to copy that function. So you see, when I type that, it automatically shows me this particular option. So all I need to do is just go here and copy the function which has been created. So let's just see what somebody has created. I can't. You can also do this thing in Xcode. So here I'm gonna probably go to this particular option. Somebody has created an option here, and they're just saying how to use the shake function. Okay, so this is a bit of R&D that you got to do, but I'm interested to show you this because this is how most programmers would do that. So you don't know everything, and you see there is a function called motion begin, and it does something something something, and device was shaken. So it's sort of, so what we can do is we can copy this code and we can put it here. Okay, and this would say, if I run this now, it should say the device was shaken, but I don't want to run this. What I want to run is I want to run random dice. So let's just see if this is going to work. So I'm gonna minimize this, click it here, and I'll wait for the app to load, and once the app loads so this is going to work anyways. Now I want to see if the shake option works. So I go to hardware and I use the shake gesture. So the shake gesture can also be created by using this control command Z. So if I say control command and Z, or was it something else? Sorry. So it says control command and Z. Yeah, so I'm clicking control command and Z, and this is my shake function. So here I'm actually not clicking, and I'm just, so if you had a physical device and you shaked it, this should happen. This feature should happen. You can either click it here or click control command Z, and then this should happen. So what we've done is, now if you review the code again, we have connected these two here and there, and we have connected this here. We created two random variables and we assigned it 0 values. Then we took those random variable and assigned it some random value from another inbuilt function which had a parameter of 0 to 5, I'm sorry, and then we created an array where we put all our image files. We named all the image files there, and we use one of the properties of the disk called the disk image1 dot image, and we assigned it this UI image property, and by assigning the dice array and giving it a random device from here, and we put it all into a function and we displayed it here. So this is an app which pretty much does everything that is necessary for you to create a good iOS app. I hope this was a useful app for you. You can play around with this, and you can break the code, you can create something else here, you can add some other images if you want to. It's all up to you. So just play around with it. It's good fun. Do not hesitate, and you might not learn it the first time, but you might definitely learn it the second and the third time. So that's how we all learn. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this particular session, and happy coding. Goodbye. See you.